Mercury, the smallest in our solar system, is an intriguing world. At a distance of around 0.4 astronomical units away from the Sun, Mercury is plagued with harsh atmospheric conditions. Nonetheless, scientists believe they've found some evidence of life on this swift celestial body. But is this really feasible? Join us in today's video as we explore the possibility of life on Mercury. In recent times, the discussions about the habitable planets have been dominated by three names: Mars, Venus, and of course planet Earth. However, we know there are some other planets that could be habitable that we haven't really looked at yet. One of the most unlikely candidates on the list is Mercury. Traveling at 29 miles per second, Mercury is the fastest orbiting planet in our solar system. And thanks to this, it has the shortest year of all planets in our solar system with 88 days. Mercury is quite a small world, only slightly larger than our Moon, but ironically, it has no moon, rings, or any other natural satellites of its own. On Mercury, our Sun would appear 3 times larger than what it is on Earth, and you wouldn't even be able to experience the usual climate conditions like winds, rain, storm, and clouds, because this terrestrial planet has a thin or practically non-existent atmosphere. Mercury's surface gravity is much lesser than the surface gravity on Earth. For perspective, a typical 100-pound load on Earth would weigh only 38 pounds on Mercury. With temperatures ranging from 750 to 800 degrees Celsius during peak hours and anywhere between minus 180 to minus 330 degrees Celsius at night, it's hard to imagine the existence of life in this Mercurian world. But recently, scientists discovered water ice at the poles of the team. Another delegate of researchers found what they believe to be signs of the chemical building blocks of life under the planet's rocky terrain. This contradicts the long-standing theory that Mercury is inhospitable. Outside this discovery, some scientists believe that life and liquid water could have existed in the past and maybe gone extinct on the planet. But how come? Human exploration of Mercury began in 1974 when NASA's Mariner 10 probe flew close to the planet, revealing never-seen-before details of its landscape. It is believed that Mercury's erratic terrain may have been formed by volatiles, a group of chemical elements and chemical compounds that can be readily vaporized. Volatiles contain water, which is an essential element in starting and sustaining life as we've come to know it here on Earth. Hence, their supposed existence in Mercury is definitely an exciting discovery. Before now, the consensus by scientists was the exact opposite. Even the slightest suggestion that Mercury could harbor life was banished and seen as a fantasy. But even if it existed by the slimmest of margins, it should have been forced into extinction by the late heavy bombardment that reportedly happened 3.9 billion years ago. Astronomers had earlier thought that the impact from these constant bombardments, as well as the catastrophic quakes and ejecta fallout produced by the antipodal Calorus Basin, was responsible for the planet's chaotic landscape. However, results from a new research mission suggest that this claim is not true because the timing is flawed. A key to the discovery was the finding that the development of the chaotic terrains persisted until approximately 1.8 billion years ago. 2 billion years after the Calorus Basin formed, Daniel Berman, a senior scientist at the Planetary Science Institute in Tucson, Arizona, said. Another researcher at the institute, Alexis Rodriguez, claims this revelation was the first kind of smoking gun. And thanks to the images and data supplied by NASA's Messenger spacecraft over 4 years, between 2011 and 2015, scientists were able to determine and document the planet's landscape features at different times, including the rough terrain and the crater formed from the heavy impact. According to scientists, the effect of the impact can be likened to the worst earthquakes we've witnessed. Think about the worst earthquakes you could ever imagine, Rodriguez said. Instead of bringing down buildings, you're bringing down mountains, entire mountain ranges. To set the record straight, the worst earthquake in the history of mankind is the Valdivia earthquake that ravaged Chile in 1960. However, the impact of the 9.5 magnitude earthquake swept through Japan, the Philippines and Hawaii, killing 6,000 people and completely destroying the town of Hilo. Now imagine what the asteroid impact would have been like on Mercury. When earthquakes happen on our planet, the debris from falling buildings and other structures are usually spread out on the surface. But with Mercury, scientists found that most of the matter that should be on the surface of the planet after the asteroid impact seemed to be missing. In this case, we're seeing very clear drops in elevation, very abrupt surface losses that indicate that the materials were removed somehow, Rodriguez explained. And this ultimately sets the tone for another interesting theory that contradicts the initial claim that heavy asteroid impact caused the chaotic and incoherent landscape on the surface of Mercury. Instead, the team behind the study began to look in another direction that suggested that the volatiles underneath the planet are responsible for creating the chaotic environment on the surface. They arrived at a consensus that these volatiles were heating up by boiling liquid known as magma till they became gaseous and sublimated. Maybe these materials were volatile and they were transported away and they could have condensed in another part of the planet. Or maybe they were entirely removed from the planet by solar winds, Rodriguez added. Mercury, as we mentioned earlier, has no atmosphere to help keep its surface temperature constant. As it orbits on its axis, the area closest to the Sun becomes really hot. However, Mercury is not completely tilted on its axis, and this means that there are some deep craters near the poles of the planet that do not receive sunlight at all. These areas remain extremely cold and could have possibly condensed the volatiles that were heated up by magma in the hot part of Mercury. But how is it possible that volatiles are able to survive on a planet with such extreme climate conditions? Well, experts like Alexis Rodriguez explain that while Mercury features radical temperatures in its atmosphere, the situation underneath the surface is less severe. So it is quite possible that some form of water or life could have existed on Mercury's crust. However, researchers cannot tell for sure which volatiles were around when the planet's surface became chaotic. Thankfully, scientists haven't given up yet. Work is still ongoing to unravel that mystery and also to understand some of the more recent theories that predict the existence of life on the planet. In fairness to these theories and the scientists who proposed them, evidence of life seems to have popped up in the strangest places in recent times. Like in 2018, when scientists discovered a massive colony of between 16.5 to 25 billion tons of microorganisms, about 3 to 5 miles beneath our Earth's surface. A discovery that was never meant to happen, especially considering the extreme conditions that are present there. Scientists estimate that temperature levels in the deep biosphere exceed 100 degrees Celsius. Also, nothing barely moves there and sources of food are extremely limited. Yet it is believed that about 70% of the world's bacteria have found a home there. Karen Lloyd, a microbiologist at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, says the discovery has forced scientists to reimagine what the boundaries are that life can exist in. In the same vein, researchers dug several kilometers beneath the ocean floor and discovered microbes. Here, the microorganisms feed on hydrogen, which is generated through a process called chemosynthesis. And as you watch this video, researchers from 3 universities and 2 government agencies in New Zealand are still buzzing about finding a hidden world of marine life in a mystery river underneath the ice in a suspected estuary in Antarctica. The main goal of the mission was to probe the role of the estuary in the climate-induced ice shelf melt, but in the end, they found an all-new ecosystem of life which contained shrimp-like creatures called amphipods. Getting to observe and sample this river was like being first to enter a hidden world, Craig Stevens, an official of the National Institute of Water and Atmospherics in New Zealand, said. Discoveries like these strengthen the conviction of scientists who believe that there may be some evidence of light and liquid water underneath Mercury. But whether that is true or not, we'll find out soon. According to scientists, evidence of the volatile removal within Mercury's chaotic terrain still exists, and the process might still be ongoing even as you watch this video. In the future, researchers are working on identifying a suitable landing site for space probes like the Bepi Colombo to gather samples for examination.